I want to start today with a feeling that I think is pretty universal,
Hmm.
but we rarely talk about it because it feels a bit ungrateful.
I think I know where you're going with this.
It's that specific kind of hollowness that hits you right after you win. You know what I mean?
The post-achievement slump, it's a very real psychological phenomenon.
Yes. You spend years grinding for the promotion or you save up for the dream house. You cross the finish line, you feel great for maybe 48 hours, and then you're on the couch on a Tuesday night thinking, wait, is that it?
And the expectation is that the external victory will permanently change your internal landscape.
And it just doesn't.
It never does.
Right. And usually we interpret that as a mistake. We think, oh, I must have picked the wrong goal.
I should have bought the boat instead of the car.
Exactly. We treat that restlessness as a bug in the system. But what if it's not a bug? What if that nagging dissatisfaction is actually a feature?
That is the pivotal question. And to answer it, we're going to do something a little unexpected today. We're doing a deep dive into a sermon from the 18th century.
Okay.
It's by Jonathan Edwards, and it's called Full Contentment in Christ.
Okay, I have to stop you there. Jonathan Edwards.
That's the one.
You mean the sinners in the hands of an angry God guy? The one famous for, dangling spiders over fires and telling everyone they're going to hell.
That is the reputation, yeah.
It just feels like a massive stretch to say that the fire and brimstone guy is the person we should turn to for advice on happiness.
Hmm.
I mean, wasn't his whole brand about misery and judgment?
That's the caricature we get in high school history class, but it misses the mark by a mile.
Really?
If you actually read the breadth of his work, Edwards was arguably one of the most astute psychologists of the human heart in American history. He was obsessed with joy.
Obsessed with joy.
He wasn't trying to crush desire. He was trying to figure out why our desires are so broken and how to fix them so we could actually be happy.
So you're saying he's less of a stop having fun scold and more of a doctor diagnosing why we aren't having any real fun.
That's a great way to put it. In this text, he's acting like a surgeon. He's cutting open the human psyche to show us why we're chronically restless.
And his diagnosis is modern.
Surprisingly modern. He starts with a premise that might surprise you, given his Puritan background. He argues that the craving for happiness is absolutely non-negotiable.
Meaning we can't turn it off.
We can't turn it off, and we shouldn't even try. Edwards calls the desire for happiness a rational and universal instinct. He says this craving isn't a sin, it's a structural necessity.
So being human means wanting to be happy.
Yes.
That seems really counterintuitive for a theologian. Usually the religious message, at least a stereotype, is self-denial. Kill your desires, be ascetic, stop wanting things.
And Edwards would say that's impossible. You can't kill the will. The will is the faculty of wanting. Asking a human to stop wanting happiness is like asking a stone to stop obeying gravity. It's just physics. The problem, according to Edwards, isn't that we want to be happy. The problem is that we are catastrophically bad at the math of how to get there.
The math.
The capacity math. This is where he gets into the anatomy of the soul. Edwards argues that the human soul has rational and spiritual capacities. We have an understanding, the ability to know, and a will, the ability to love or desire.
Okay.
And the crucial point is that these capacities are, for all intents and purposes, infinite.
Infinite in what sense? Like we have an infinite attention span, because my scrolling habits would strongly disagree with that.
No, not like that. Infinite in the sense of depth and scope. The soul is designed to interface with something vast.
Sure.
But here's the mismatch. We take this infinite capacity, this canyon inside of us, and we try to fill it with finite things.
This is the square peg in a round hole idea.
It's more severe than that. It's like trying to fill the Grand Canyon with a single bucket of water. It's not just that the shape is wrong, the scale is wrong.
Right.
Edwards argues that worldly things, wealth, honor, pleasure, are finite. They have boundaries, they end.
Okay, but let's push back on that a bit. Finite sounds abstract. A nice house feels pretty substantial. A secure bank account, that feels like it solves a lot of problems. Why does Edwards think these things are biologically incapable of satisfying us?
Because they can't engage the full scope of your faculties. Think about it. A comfortable mattress gratifies your sense of touch. A delicious meal, your sense of taste. But do you have a soul that is only touch and taste?
No.
No. You have a mind designed for reason and a heart designed for deep affection. A mattress can't talk to your reason. A steak can't reciprocate your affection.
So we're using physical inputs to solve a spiritual hunger.
Precisely. Edwards puts it this way. The soul needs an object excellent enough to justify its own capacity.
Uh-huh.
If you have a mind capable of understanding the cosmos, and you feed it nothing but celebrity gossip or quarterly earnings reports, it's going to starve.
Not because those things are evil, but just because they're...
They're too small, they're ontologically lightweight.
And that leads to the treadmill, doesn't it? Because if the thing I'm chasing is too small to fill the void, I don't just stop. I assume I just need more of it.
That is the cycle of restlessness. Edwards describes this vivid picture of humanity hopping from one object of hope to another. We're convinced the next thing will be the one.
I know the car didn't make me happy, but the boat... the boat will definitely work.
Or, I know the last relationship didn't fix me, but this new person is different.
Right.
And Edwards says we're chasing shadows rather than substance.
I want to dig into that metaphor. Shadows feels a little poetic. Is he saying our jobs and families aren't real? Because they feel very real when you're stressed about them.
He's not saying they are hallucinations. He's talking about their ability to bear weight.
Okay.
Think about a shadow on the ground. It has the shape of a person. It outlines the form. But if you try to lean on a shadow,
You fall right through.
you fall right through.
Okay.
Edwards argues worldly happiness has the shape of true satisfaction. It looks like what we want, but it lacks the substance to hold us up.
It lacks permanence.
And it lacks independence. A shadow changes depending on the light. Worldly happiness is totally dependent on circumstances. If the market crashes, the money shadow disappears.
If public opinion shifts, the fame shadow disappears.
Exactly. Edwards wants us to see that relying on these things is terrifying because they're so fragile.
So when we hit that moment I mentioned at the start, that Tuesday night feeling of, is this it? Edwards wouldn't say that's a bad thing.
No, he would say that is the moment of awakening.
And awake.
It's the moment you realize the math doesn't work. He uses this phrase, becoming spiritually poor and thirsty.
Which sounds depressing.
It feels depressing, but he argues it's the prerequisite for health. You have to admit the well is dry before you go looking for a river.
Right.
If you keep convincing yourself that the sand you're drinking is water, you'll die of thirst. That pain of dissatisfaction is actually your soul telling you, hey, we're starving down here and this stuff isn't food.
Okay, so let's pivot to the food. Or the water, in this case. We've established a problem. Infinite capacity meets finite world.
Equals misery.
What's Edwards' solution?
He turns to a specific image from the book of Isaiah. Rivers of water in a dry place. He identifies Christ as this river. And before we glaze over the religious language, we need to look at why he uses this specific image.
It's a contrast to the puddles of the world.
A direct contrast. It goes back to the scarcity mindset you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the economy of the world. It is fundamentally zero-sum and rivalrous. If there's a limited amount of money and I take a huge chunk of it, there's less for you.
If I get the corner office, you stay in the cubicle.
Right. Worldly goods are diminished when they are shared or used. It creates anxiety. I have to protect my slice of the pie because the pie is small.
And everyone wants a piece.
Exactly. But Edwards argues that spiritual goods, specifically the excellency of Christ, operate on a completely different economic model. They are non-rivalrous.
On-rivalrous.
Meaning, my consumption of it does not reduce your ability to consume it. Edwards argues that Christ is an infinite good. If I drop peace or joy or pardon from him, I haven't lowered the water level for you. In fact, my joy might actually increase yours. It's an undiminished supply.
That's a hard shift to make mentally.
It is.
Because everything we interact with runs out. Batteries die, patience wears thin, money runs out. The idea of a resource that is impervious to exhaustion is alien.
It is alien. And Edwards pushes this even further with a concept that I think is the intellectual high point of the sermon.
Okay.
It's the idea of excellence without exhaustion.
This addresses the boredom factor.
Yes. And this is a serious question. If heaven is forever, or if this relationship with Christ is eternal, wouldn't we eventually get bored?
I think about that all the time. It's like the favorite song problem. You love a song, you play it on repeat for 3 days, and by day 4 you hate it. You've consumed it.
That is called satiety. You become satiated. And why? Because the song is finite. It has a limited complexity. Once your mind has mapped every beat, every lyric, there is nothing left to discover. The mystery is gone, and so the pleasure fades.
We get bored because we conquer the object. We figure it out.
We figure it out. But Edwards argues that Christ is an infinite object. His excellence and beauty are boundless.
So you could explore his character for 10,000 years.
And you have not even scratched the surface. The mind never conquers the object.
Never.
The more you know, the more you realize there is to know. It's a paradox. You are fully satisfied, yet you are always discovering more. There's no satiety because the object is always fresh.
So this is the only thing that can fit the human soul.
That's his argument. We're built for infinite engagement. That's why we get bored with hobbies and careers and even people.
Right.
We eventually map the territory. But with an infinite God, the territory has no edge.
That actually makes the restlessness make sense. If I'm built for an infinite ocean and I'm trying to swim in a bathtub, of course I'm going to feel cramped.
Right? The cramping isn't a defect in you. It's a defect in the bathtub.
So, if we accept this premise, that we need to move from the shadows to the substance, what does that actually look like? Edwards talks about contentment, but I feel like that word has been hijacked.
It has.
When I hear contentment, I hear settling. I hear a Stoic philosopher telling me to lower my expectations, grit my teeth, and just be okay with a bad situation.
It is what it is.
Yeah, that. And Edwards would say that is absolutely not Christian contentment.
He would.
Break that down for me. What's the difference?
Stoicism is about suppressing desire, telling yourself you don't actually want the thing you want. Edwards is about recentering desire.
Okay, recentering.
Stoicism says, you are poor. Stop wanting money and you won't suffer, Edwards says. You are poor. Realize that money wasn't the main source of your happiness anyway, and tack into the wealth you have in Christ.
So it's not about caring less. It's about caring about the source.
It's about anchoring.
Right.
Imagine a boat. If you anchor a boat to another boat that's just bobbing in the waves, your boat is going to be unstable.
That's anchoring your happiness to circumstances.
Exactly. Market goes up, you're up. Goes down, you're down. Edwards says contentment is anchoring your boat to the bedrock at the bottom of the ocean. The waves are still there. He's not saying life doesn't get hard, but your stability isn't derived from the surface conditions.
So you could be ambitious, you can have goals, you can build things, but you aren't devastated if they collapse.
Exactly. You're free to enjoy the shadows for what they are, pleasant, temporary gifts, because you aren't asking them to be your God.
You aren't asking your job to give you your identity.
Or asking your spouse to be your savior. You're letting them off the hook.
That's actually a really freeing thought. It seems like it would take a lot of pressure off the people around you.
It's incredibly liberating.
If I'm not demanding that my partner satisfy my infinite soul, I can just enjoy them for being a human.
Precisely. And Edwards lists the benefits of this recentering, peace of conscience, reconciliation with God. He argues these are the things that actually let you sleep at night.
And no amount of money can buy that.
You can be the richest person on earth, but if you have a guilty conscience or a fear of death, that money is worthless. It can't buy peace.
Peace of conscience is one of those things you don't value until you lose it.
And Edwards says that peace is available, but only if you go to the source. He closes by essentially saying, look at the data of your own life. You have been running on the treadmill. You have been chasing the shadows. Has it worked?
It's the definition of insanity argument.
It is. He says, why are you spending your money on that which is not bread? He's pleading with the listener to stop trying to fill a canyon with a shovel. The supply is there. The river is there.
But you have to admit you're thirsty.
And you have to stop pretending the sand is water.
You know, for a guy with a reputation for fire and brimstone, this is a deeply compassionate argument.
It really is.
He's basically saying, I want you to be happy, and I'm watching you make yourself miserable trying to squeeze juice out of a rock.
That is the real Jonathan Edwards. He believed God was the most hedonistic being in the universe, full of joy, and he wanted humans to participate in that. He just knew we were looking in all the wrong places.
It's a fascinating reframe. We usually think of religion as the thing that restricts us, but Edwards is arguing that our worldly pursuits are the restriction.
Because they're too small for us.
Too small. That's the key phrase. Your soul is too big for the world.
Yes.
So we've covered the paradox of desire, the mismatch of the soul and the world, and this idea of an infinite object. I want to leave our listeners with something to chew on.
I agree.
Think about that restlessness we talked about at the beginning, the Tuesday night on the couch feeling.
Mm-hmm.
If we take Edwards seriously, that feeling isn't the sign that you're broken.
It's a sign that you are working perfectly.
Right. So here is the question.
Yeah.
If you stopped viewing your dissatisfaction as a failure and started viewing it as a compass, where is it pointing you?
And if you accepted that you have an infinite capacity, how would that change the way you treat your finite problems tomorrow morning?
It's a shift that might just change everything. Thanks for taking this deep dive into the 18th century with us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you on the next one.